Okay, I bought a new microphone and I've got 5 days to make this video. So I won't guarantee the video quality. But I have to make this video because it has been 10 years since... You'll see. Have you heard of stories where many people felt like their lives have been saved after consuming various sorts of entertainment, whether it's movies or TV shows? In fact, I'm going to make a video about this subject matter in the future, if I don't procrastinate. But what if I tell you that I have a life story involving entertainment? There's this cartoon that has changed my life. Unfortunately, it's not all positive. I haven't heard of any less than ideal or positive influences of entertainment, perhaps for obvious reasons that I haven't understood. But I will share my story anyway. Maybe someone can relate. I'm going to talk about Phineas and Ferb. First, I will plug in my Patreon. By subscribing to it, you will help me make more videos like this. I am particularly interested in pop culture and neurodiversity, so if you're interested in these topics, go ahead and become a patron, starting from $1 per month. You will also get free things like PSD files for my drawings. So what are you waiting for? Go to patreon.com/LalaSaloon. Wait, actually just go watch this video before you decide. Phineas and Ferb is a cartoon that premiered in August 17th, 2008. Hey, this is Lala editing. It turns out that Phineas and Ferb was actually released in 2007, not 2008. I got 2008 because its official premiere was in February 2008. This means that I'm uploading this video in Phineas and Ferb's 15th anniversary. Woohoo! Phineas and Ferb is such a good show. Everyone should at least give it a try. It was created by Dan Povenmire and Jeff Swampy Marsh. The hit Disney series features two boys named Phineas Flynn and Ferb Fletcher who try to seize the summer by creating something new every day. Their sister, Candace Flynn, tries to report their actions to their mom, effectively busting them, to no avail. Meanwhile, their pet platypus Perry is secretly an agent trying to thwart Dr. Doofenshmirtz and his evil inventions, often ending with a nadir. There are so many documentaries, videos, and other information about how the show came to be. So in this video, I will share my experience with Phineas and Ferb. To give you a bit of a background, I'm an autistic, as my channel name suggests, living in Indonesia. Because I was isolated in childhood, I spent most of my time on the internet, talking with internet people. Anyway, I was around 14 when I first saw the show where I live, Indonesia. I suppose this was when airings in other countries are different from the US, because I recall that Phineas and Ferb premiered at around 2010. I don't know. At first I was skeptical about the show because it looked like a typical wacky cartoon like Looney Tunes, Tom and Jerry, Scooby-Doo, you know. But when I started to watch it, I actually really enjoyed it. I love how Phineas and Ferb try to create something new every day to find a creative way to solve everyday problems. You fantasize about being in a video game? Well, Phineas and Ferb will make an advanced video game with virtual reality. Wait, make that actual reality. That will teleport you right into it. In the middle of a heated argument? Well, Phineas and Ferb can make a series of extreme games just so you can decide who wins. You want to celebrate your parents' anniversary? Well, Phineas and Ferb, aka your brothers, will call upon your parents' favorite band members who have retired for a long time, one by one, through song, and gather them in a big reunion concert just to replicate that one time they kissed. Yeah, of course Phineas and Ferb are really formulaic. Phineas and Ferb build something, Candace calls mom, Perry fights Doofenshmirtz. Their fight somehow causes the destruction of Phineas and Ferb's invention, and Phineas and Ferb end up not getting busted no matter what Candace does. but it's how they tackle the formula. Phineas and Ferb make sure that there's variety to the formula in each episode. They add variation depending on what thing that they want to solve. Also, I guess being autistic makes me really enjoy them. I enjoy repeating things, repeating patterns. At the same time, I have ADHD, so I also like variety and just random things in general. Phineas and Ferb has the perfect blend between formula and variety that I enjoy, which is why Phineas and Ferb became the cartoon that influenced me the most. My art style is heavily inspired by it. Here's my fan art for the show, by the way, and here's my recent fan art of them right now, 10 years later. I also got involved with the Phineas and Ferb wiki and the Phineas and Ferb fan and wiki, now called Fandom, where I made some interesting friends. I remember the time when people would make a ton of fan art of Perry the Platypus and an OC that they would make. Also, a lot of people kept insisting that Doofenshmirtz is Phineas and Candace's biological father, even though Doofenshmirtz and Phineas don't look that similar. We'll get to that. So I've been talking about good things, right? But what about the not so good things? You see, because of my obsession with Phineas and Ferb, some of the logic-seeking aspects of my autism crept in. You see, Phineas and Ferb are stepbrothers. The Flint Fletchers are a blended family. I was wondering why Phineas had a triangular head while Ferb had green hair, while their parents who are present in the show don't have those characteristics at all. I began to wonder if Phineas and Ferb's missing biological parents have those unique characteristics. Does Phineas's biological dad have a triangular head? Does Ferb's biological mom have green hair? I began to think long and hard. My brain was just latched onto that topic for such a long time. It's easy to assume that Ferb's biological mother is an alien because Ferb himself speaks Martian and has unevenly sized eyes. But what about Phineas's biological father? That's quite tricky to figure out and theorize. I became particularly obsessed with the dad. You know Perry the Platypus? That platypus with a fedora? I was really into him, and I really wanted to see him as a human. One time, someone jokingly talked about how he may be Phineas and Candace's biological dad, and I took it a bit too seriously. Have you seen my fan art collection of Candace and Perry as her biological father, with Candace struggling with her memories of him when he was human and her dad? I even made a website dedicated to him. Look at this. It's a collection of fanfics and fan art dedicated to Phineas and Candace's biological father. And what's with this obsession, you may ask? Well, let me introduce you to a classic daddy's issues story, though I have mommy issues too. But it wasn't something that I had realized back then. You see, my relationship with my dad drastically changed when I became a teenager, around the time I first watched Phineas and Ferb. As an autistic, change just traumatizes me. So writing about Candace's relationship with her biological dad, which is a man who transformed into a platypus, seemed to be a coping mechanism. One day, Dan and Swampy announced a few years later that they would never reveal who the missing biological parents were. I get it. They want a blended family to feel normal and not to touch the nitty-gritty stuff about biological parents' problems and all that. But I couldn't handle it. I couldn't stop thinking about them. I couldn't stop thinking about the missing biological parents every time I see Phineas and Ferb on screen. So in 2012, I swore to myself to leave Phineas and Ferb and to come back when Dan and Swampy made a new cartoon. 4 years later, in 2016, and I was a college student. I had gone through so many bad things. As you make friends as an autistic adult, you will have to learn a few things. One is that when you're a teenager, they want to make fun of you just because they want to gain a kick out of it. But as adults, especially non-autistic adults, they have the ability to assess someone's psyche and use them to their advantage. It's usually a social skill and is normalized. Someone with bad intentions would use this skill to manipulate other people, especially autistics, as a mean to intentionally harm them. Then came Milo Murphy's Law. Milo Murphy's Law came out on October 3rd, 2016, also created by Dan and Swampy. It is about a boy named Milo Murphy, as per the title, who has a fictional disability based on Murphy's Law. What can go wrong will go wrong, which makes things around him go wrong. When I saw the promotion, I was so excited. Dan and Swampy finally made a second show that I've been waiting for since 2012? Hell yeah! When the poster was released, I took a closer look, and look what we've got here. A human who resembles Perry the Platypus? Something that I've also been looking for since 2012? I soon learned that his name is Dr. Zone, a TV time traveler character from a show that has run for 50 years. And guess what? He was hyped up to be a part of an overarching mystery in the show. I was looking forward to this because I've been watching anime that are similar to this. Revolutionary Utena would be one example where Utena was looking for that prince character, but he turned out to be a very shady character. There were also cartoons like Steven Universe and Gravity Falls, where they try to incorporate mystery and lore. So I looked forward to see how Dan and Swampy were able to combine the comedy from Phineas and Ferb and mystery. And I also thought that he looked like he'd at least be related to Melissa somehow. Melissa is the female character of Milo Murphy's Law, who would defend Murphy's Law to no end. I soon became obsessed with him and his connection with Melissa. I made a ton of videos about Dr. Zone. They're called the Dr. Zone Mystery Files. But I put all the videos in private because I feel embarrassed about all of them. I got to learn about Jermaine Clement, whom himself is an actual gem. I've made a video that included my interest in him, by the way. I also reunited with some friends back when I was into Phineas and Ferb. We were all having fun about theories and what may happen in Milo Murphy's Law. But all the research pretty much went to waste. I was driven by my own bias, which in itself is formed by trauma. Aside from familial troubles, I was also treated poorly because of my behavior that is caused by autism. When Melissa's dad was revealed in the show and he had an unfavorable view of Milo, I thought it didn't make sense because how could a girl who has been very supportive of Milo since they were little has a dad who is the opposite of that? Deep inside, I hoped that Dr. Zone was Melissa's real dad and that he was supportive of Milo just as much, if not more. Then the little engine that couldn't happen. There was this scene where Melissa's dad was angry at Milo because of Murphy's Law, and the whole thing got solved within one episode. After watching that episode, I felt some weird visceral reaction, something negative, like a fight or flight response. Was it something to lash out about? I don't know. What I do know is that I was upset that they didn't realistically deal with ableism and that physical reaction was most likely a trauma response and my body was going through some sort of emotional flashback. In the season mid-finale, Missing Milo, it was revealed that Dr. Zone's actor, Orn Malson, was old, and there's no explanation within the show that explained why he hadn't changed his appearance for 50 years. Regardless, I had to ask the crew members themselves if Dr. Zone was related to Melissa in any way, to which they replied no, and it's all just a coincidence. It also turned out that Dr. Zone wouldn't take a big part of the story either. That role would go to Doofenshmirtz, and that he would not be in the next season. They claim that he may be in the show in season 3. I was devastated, especially given that TV shows tend to not go past the second season, and I had little faith in Milo Murphy's Law's success. My prediction for Milo Murphy's Law turns out to be true because to this day, Milo Murphy's Law hasn't been renewed. In fact, it might as well be cancelled because Dan Povenmire is now working on a new show called Hamster and Gretel. I felt like that I quote-unquote lost Dr. Zone. The chance for an adult character to accept Murphy's Law as much as Melissa did. Of course, there are Cavendish and Dakota, but they usually do their own thing. And there are Milo's own parents, but they're usually out of the picture because cartoons don't involve parents that much. To me, my idealized version of Dr. Zone is someone who would protect Milo and defend him no matter the cost. Someone who would take all the damages just so Milo could be happy. And that simply didn't happen. I don't know why I should expect that much from Dan and Swampy. Aside from all the emotional aspects of my research, I also thought that the plot elements within Milo Murphy's Law didn't make sense. Like, what's the point of Melissa showing off the pistachio warehouse to Milo? I soon learned that, as taught in art criticism class in college, I shouldn't treat a piece of art as is. I relied too much on what's within the show, and not on the creators themselves. You see, Dan and Swampy aren't particularly known for making things that make sense. Have you seen Phineas and Ferb? I'm pretty sure that based on a synopsis that I've given you, I don't think Dan and Swampy are the role models when it comes to writing things that make sense. It was recently revealed in an SDCC interview that Dan Povenmire was diagnosed with ADHD. That actually made more sense given the writing of Phineas and Ferb and Milo Murphy's Law and its overall direction, as people with ADHD tend to favor novelty over logic. I know this. I have relatives and friends with ADHD. I also have ADHD, so research flaws aside, I was still very hurt by my experiences with Milo Murphy's Law, so I pushed others away, leaving myself with little to no friends that I know because of Phineas and Ferb and Milo Murphy's Law. And I don't know if I want to make friends based on Phineas and Ferb and Milo Murphy's Law either, because all I would do is constantly criticize them. And that's not something that Phineas and Ferb and Milo Murphy's Law fans would like to hear. Why would they want to hear about someone who hates the show that they like? Not that I actually hate Phineas and Ferb and Milo Murphy's Law. I love the art style and its general brand of humor. It's just that sometimes I just think too logically for those shows. But I will admit that I have a newfound admiration for Phineas and Ferb, especially after Milo Murphy's Law. I don't know how to feel after all I've been through in the Phineas and Ferb and Milo Murphy's Law fandoms. I'm still recovering from a life's worth of trauma caused by my disability and other people's ableism towards it. It's indeed very complex, and it's hard to find someone who is understanding. I am slowly becoming better though, but it's a slow progress. For one, I am making the Zone universe, an alternate universe of Milo Murphy's Law. It's heavily inspired by not only my life, but also my interests, especially in mystery and comedy. It's the kind of Phineas and Ferb inspired story that I would like to see. It's been a slow progress and the updates are rare, because I have a day job and fanworks are not allowed to pay the bills. I'm also running a non-profit for autistic people in Indonesia. I enjoy company from Indonesian autistics so far, and I hope with the non-profit I can help advocate for autistic people's rights and lives here to become better. As for how I pay the bills, I work as an illustrator. I work on children's books for now. I'm glad that I can visually describe stories for children. Ultimately, I am into pop culture and neurodiversity, alongside with working on art that speaks about issues surrounding those topics. So my life has been going pretty well so far. Phineas and Ferb is indeed an inspiration to me. The high energy show teaches me how to be creative and to overcome the problems around me. Milo Murphy's Law may not be an inspiring piece like its predecessor, but the experiences has made me explore what really matters and helped with my maturity and growth.